In fact, it was 1992 was the first time I ever came to Whidbey Island. And rather quickly, I fell in love with the place. And within about 6 to 8 years, I was probably visiting here 3 times a year for 2 or 3 weeks at a time. The ocean, I heard the ocean calling for me in a loud enough voice that I decided I needed to move up here. So I came up and started looking for properties on the island, and right off the bat I knew I wanted to live on the west side where the sun was setting rather than rising. And so we started looking here up and down this southwestern coast of Whidbey Island. And when I stood on this bluff right here and looked out, it was kind of like Brigham Young. I just said, this is it. You know, this is it. And that was about 12 years ago, so bought the property. And on the property here, what was very interesting is is learning about really the history of this property. If anybody stepped out on this bluff and looked, they wouldn't want to leave. People would always be coming here for the view, you know, looking from this edge west to the Olympic Peninsula and the mountains. But apparently back in 1907, a family came here that it wasn't just the view that they loved, because right over here they started one of the biggest chicken farms. It proved to be one of the biggest chicken farms in the 20th century in the state of Washington. The Patton Place, this was called. So the Patton Place, they had chicken coops all over the place here on this property, down in the valley, everywhere. When I bought this house in 2003, really nothing had been done to it since it was built in '49. So what I did, it's being close to the bluff and not wanting to have to build farther away from the bluff as county codes would have demanded, we tore this house down to the foundation and rebuilt this that you see on that foundation, which allowed us to maintain this really unbelievable, breathtaking view from within the house. And then I built it with as much glass as I could, because living here is not about the dwelling at all. It's about the place and the energy that's here and the beauty of the place that transfixes one. With my daughter and her husband, they had come from Napa, California, and we'd started making wine. So we started a winery here and named it Useless Bay Wines. For the bay here, Useless Bay, named because it's really not very navigable, so therefore useless. So when the tide goes out here, a very low tide, it feels like it goes out several football fields. You know, you can walk out there a great distance. It's really beautiful. So I'd actually only been living here a couple of years, and my daughter came, and she had met a man when she had traveled to Spain that she had fallen in love with and come back, and they got married right here on the bluff, on this little point that is, to me, the most beautiful point, because you can look and see the 180 degrees of the sound, but then when you turn to the left, there's another 90 degrees looking straight across Maxwellton Valley. So from that vantage point, you can really survey that 270 degrees of water and valley, and that's where they were married. It was like nature providing the most glorious chapel that most people are married in churches or chapels, or imagining a great chapel or cathedral in Europe, that man has created, and the vastness of that space and how we feel there. It's like this clearly is nature's chapel right here. The Pattons, when they built the house, used local lumber. So Doug fir here on South Whidbey that was milled back then went into the framing of this house. And when I tore it down, especially in the attic, which was huge, I discovered that all the framing, the joists, the floors, the beams up there, were this original Douglas fir, and it was beautiful. It was milled in large dimensions that you don't do now. And one thing after dismantling it, and we were going to use all this wood again, so we took great care in taking everything apart, was that I discovered on so much of this lumber, the edges of the wood would have the original bark on them, so that the cuts of the tree were all including the outer edge of the tree. And it was just absolutely beautiful. It was really beautiful, intact, firmly intact on the lumber. And I remember looking over at my friend, and we'd done carpentry for years in California, and he said, man, the live edge is really present here. And it's just like, live edge. And it just all came together for me. It was the live edge of the wood and realizing the edge of this bluff that I'm now about to live on, looking down 120 feet to the beach. This edge is alive too. So that's actually when it came to my mind that the name of this place is the Live Edge Bluff.